What's up? And welcome back, y'all. Today's question is from Brianna_Morris. What's up, girl? She asked, how much is too much personal information shared when you're trying to be authentic or vulnerable, especially the educational or inspirational posts? Okay, so let's unpack vulnerability for a second because I feel like that's something that I really try to drive the point forward, drive the point home, drive the point forward, and drive it home. Whew, this is off to a rocky start. I'm late on today's video. Thanks to Stefan. He made us an amazing dinner and I got the itis and took a little nap and I was like, oh, video. Okay, so vulnerability is something that is a superpower and a gift if you know how to leverage it for your personal brand. And I put leverage in quotation marks because I don't want it to be a gimmick. Vulnerability should not be forced or manufactured to the point where people feel like you're just trauma dumping. So when you are with a friend or you're talking to a friend, I want you to consider things that you would think are vulnerable if they told it to you. Maybe they are going through, I don't know, a health struggle or they're on a weight loss journey and they confide in you something that you've actually experienced, but you've never told. And that's essentially what I believe vulnerability is. Something that everyone has experience with, but rarely do they talk about because there is so much shame and guilt attached to that topic or conversation. Most people don't touch it. They take it to therapy, to their journals, but never online. And so when it comes to vulnerability or me sharing something that feels vulnerable, it's never to just expose myself. It's always to reframe and rewrite the narrative under which I'm trying to share it. And I think when you approach it from that lens, so let's start with the first part of the question. How much is too much personal information? So I've shared in a previous video how I have siblings that are very private. I'm from a family of 8, and half of my siblings are not on social media. So I respect that by not posting them, not talking about them, letting them know that, they have a private life outside of their very public sister. So I think if I were to share something that is their story, it's not my story to tell. If it happened to them, I have no business sharing their story on my platform. Um, if I'm wanting to talk about, there are probably everyone has experienced pain. So let's talk about a couple situations. So we have friendship breakups. I'm sure everyone has experienced that. Heartbreak, most people have some level of pain attached to love and dating. And then health scares. Either someone has gone through a health scare themselves or a family member or close friend. So let's start with the first one, a friendship breakup. If I know that I have mutual friends, I'm not going to divulge on details of a friendship breakup. I think out of respect for the person and the friendship, even if they harmed me, they did me wrong, I would never just blast our business because even no matter the circumstances of how the friendship ended, I think it's important to still honor who people were in our lives. So if I were to talk about a friendship breakup online, it would be to the extent of the general public gaining a lesson from any kind of scenario regarding friendship breakups. And sometimes what I'll do, because I also don't talk about things immediately. So maybe something happened 7 years ago. So when I do bring it up online, I'll be like a few years back. And so if someone tries to interpret or like study my timeline, a few years could be 3 years, it could be 7 years, it could be 15 years. But more often than not, people can't actually trace who and when and all that kind of stuff. And naturally, you go in and out of, cycles talking to people. So even if they did think it was someone, we're probably still cool. So yeah, so that's one thing. So too much personal information in a friendship breakup is naming them and exposing them. I would never do that. Too much personal information in a romantic breakup. Now, this is where I probably shared too much personal, but it was actually um, deliberately done. So when I was talking about having found Stefan and found love and, traveled, used dating apps while I was traveling, I was sharing basically my process. And so many people were happy for me, but of course, there were a lot of women who were still frustrated with their experiences on dating apps, and they just wanted to hear more about how I've navigated or if I experienced any letdowns on apps. Because just because someone finds success on a dating app doesn't mean that they don't have negative experiences too. So yeah, I felt compelled to just share, a breakup text that I had to send when I started to fear for someone. Ironically, I was trying to date in my culture. It was a Nigerian man, and I was, this was so crazy. I was like, oh, was I doing that for my mom too? Like, if I can't get her the career she wants, maybe I can get her the man she'll approve of. Lord, people pleasing, the trauma. So yeah, I was dating someone from our culture and from our tribe, and I thought, okay, this could be, my reckoning. And he just, yeah, just disrespectful, emotionally abusive, just all the things. And so I was like, I don't even feel safe to break up in person or have this conversation in person. So I sent a text message that was very affirming, because one thing that I've learned with dating is, and you could take this how you want, anyone watching this, because I know it's very popular to hate men right now. And, you know, I've had my years where was frustrated with men. I had my years where I didn't trust men. I didn't feel safe with men. And I realized that I couldn't find love in a man if I was still afraid of them. So I had to do my own work to like heal the parts of me that were deeply wounded by all the men in my life. So when I, yeah, when I started doing the online dating thing again, I told myself, I'm going to make sure no matter what happens in these talking stages or couple dates here and there, I'm going to try to leave every man better than I found him. I'm going to affirm him. I'm going to uplift him. I'm going to give him just words of affirmation and show him his potential and encourage him, like things that men don't often get. And the reality is that yeah, men actually aren't complimented very often. Like unless they're like ultra fine, ultra tall, ultra athletic, but the average everyday guy doesn't get many compliments. So even just by doing that, intentionally giving words of affirmation, like you can really turn a guy's life around. So anyways, kind of intentionally approached relationships like that. But in this case where I was like, yeah, this guy is like scary and toxic, and I need to end this sooner than later. And it was a few days even. Like it didn't even feel like it wasn't a relationship. It was like the talking stage where he had asked me out on a few dates, couple dates, and I said yes. Um, and yeah, so I was just sending the message of just like, thank you for these last few days that we've gotten to know each other. What I've also come to realize is I think, we want different things, and um, I'll always admire you for dun 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 listed reasons. Here's what you do really well, and here's what I really appreciate. And I think I even there was this line. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I used it for everyone, but I felt I took a lot of pride in this line because I feel like it was such a beautiful way to affirm a man. Um, Gosh, I know I published it in my dating guide, and I feel like can I look it up really quickly? That okay, I'm gonna butcher it, but it was something like the woman who will one day get all of you will be so lucky. Something like that. I I alluded to the fact that the woman in his future that will get all of him, his vulnerability, his pain, his fear, his potential, his power, like what a lucky woman that'll be. And it was just a way to just encourage and send off with love. And I was really proud of that statement. And again, I did use it multiple times, maybe like 3 or 4 times. But each time it was met with like, wow. I remember there was one guy um, that we our first date was at the library. I have to share this story because this is if you're a guy watching this, This was such a top tier date, probably the best first date I've ever went on. And it's okay, Stefan knows because our first date didn't happen because if you guys don't know that whole story, I'll have to tell it in a whole different video of like how we weren't able to meet because I had my daytime rule of like no nighttime dates and he missed his train and oof, okay, whole nother video. Stay on topic, Chloe. So went to a bookstore and or was it a library? Bookshop, something. But he picked out three books for me. I picked out three books for him. And we just literally sat at the table, had a coffee, and we would read for like 10 minutes. And then we would give summaries of what we read so far and what we learned. And it was so beautiful because I loved how it was like off of first impression. At that point, we had only texted for a few days. So, based on what you think you know about me, what type of book do you think I would enjoy? So, it was almost like a psychological, game there because if I get a book on leadership, am I telling him that he needs to be a better leader or that I see leadership skills in him? But that was just such a quality, probably lasted 3 or 4 hours, very platonic as well. Like it wasn't awkward, didn't end with a kiss. It was just a very like, man, this was a wholesome afternoon and I felt safe. Like that was my biggest thing. Before I could get to Stefan, and I'm glad before I met Stefan, I went on a couple dates where I just learned how to feel safe around men again because I had heard so many traumatic stories from women who were assaulted, had really bad and negative experiences with men. So, to the degree that I'm sharing the breakup text, is because I want other women to see that my online dating experiences weren't just positive. So, was it too much personal information? Maybe. I also decided to share what he said back to me. He said, I'm full of myself. He was like, you don't know what you want. Go heal yourself. just, just like, lashed out. And I'm like, thank you. I thanked him for the feedback. I really appreciate that. And no one can enter dating fully healed. No one can enter dating perfect. We are all figuring ourselves out. And I made the mistake of being single for so many years in my 20s, thinking that I was doing the work and healing, when in actuality, I was never learning how to be a girlfriend. I never considered, like, oh, what are the sacrifices or the commitments or the expectations that, like, yeah, oh, I have to say what I want. I can't just hope that he guesses. So I appreciated it. And too much personal information. Okay, and then the last situation, what did we talk about? Yeah, a medical or health scare. So in mine, I put everything out there. My 28 centimeter ovarian cyst. I shared the full story, I believe on day three of this series where yeah, I had suicidal ideation, just really traumatic. Most of the video I'm crying because it was um a lot to unpack, a lot to retell and kind of like reminisce on. Is it too much personal information? If I'm the only one that's at risk, I'm okay with putting myself out there. And for me, I don't look at something as too much information if it's helping someone. I don't mind being the guinea pig. I don't mind, you know, the public scrutiny, the public shame, because you can't shame something that I've already taken ownership of. And I'm mindful that everything in my life that I've overcome is a testimony and it's meant to be shared. And I I share everything for the glory of God because it's not about me, it's about leading people to the person that saved me. And I think when I decenter myself from the actual testimony, and I think that's what helps it not feel so personal. Okay, so the next part is about being authentic and vulnerable while being educational or inspirational in posts. So that already that feels like a lot of pressure. Like, okay, how do I not share too much and then be authentic and be vulnerable and then also educate and inspire? I think more than any of that as a goal, I think the first thing you should do is just get consistent in your joy. What does it look like to be consistent and feeling good about posting online? And one of my private clients that I'm working with, like face to camera content was going to be a really big, um, what do you call it? Like, not even challenge, but like goal. Like, what would it look like if the majority of your page was you talking on camera? And I also had another client today where she comes from traditional media, television, and very poised, very polished, because that's how you need to present on TV. Whereas on social media, people want a little bit more raw and edgy, where they want to feel like they're talking to a friend or the person next door. So it's a completely different arena. And you'll often find that people that are actually really professional or corporate in their traditional work, social media is a little bit harder because that casual layer, there is no mask that they can put on because on TV you can hide behind the teleprompter. In the hospital, you can hide behind your mask and your um, uniform. I was going to say costume. But yeah, I think if I were to choose between being educational or inspirational, I would go with inspirational first. And like, just think about it. To educate is a lot of pressure because then you're going to be asking yourself, is this helpful? Does it matter? Is this dumb? Do they already know this? Is this simple enough? Will they understand it? But to inspire, you could literally just say, get the F out of bed. You could just say, get up and go for a walk today. And someone, literally someone will be like, I needed to see this. I needed to read this. You're right, I should. Because no matter what, people are scrolling aimlessly. If we, and I say we, including you all watching, including you, Brianna, um, we are the 2% that are the creators. We are the ones that are putting out media. We are posting content meant for other people to consume at mass. So if most people are scrolling with no end game, just until they get bored, until their phone dies, until their phone falls on their face, then it's up to people like us to post the words that people need to hear, the words that people need to be reminded of, and the words that, would you hate it when you feel your chin hair like just shape peach fuzz? Oof. Okay. Um, I don't know. I lost it. Saying something about educational and inspirational. Okay, so I'm gonna read the question one more time and make sure I have no more points. So too much information when you're trying to be authentic, especially the educational or inspirational posts. Short answer, as we're what, 20 minutes into this video. The short answer is that I don't think you can share too much when the goal is to help people. Oversharing is every day something is wrong. Oversharing is every day there's a new emergency. Oversharing is dramatizing, not in an entertaining way, but like an annoying way, like get yourself together way. And if you're someone that wants to be seen as an educator, as a mentor, as a coach, as a guide, as a resource in any capacity, people need to feel like they can trust that on a day-to-day basis, you more or less have your stuff together. Because if I want to invest thousands in my personal development and my growth and my health and all the things, I'm going to go for the person that I feel is most reliable. And I've actually, there was once I invested in someone where I was like, yeah, I think, content was good. And I'm sure all have a story like this where, you know, there was an investment where like, could have saved my money on that. But yeah, she was actually incredibly vulnerable and incredibly raw. And I connected to that. I was like, ooh, this is this is great. And I could see where there, and this is on me. That's why I don't even blame her. Because this was on me. I saw the gaps and I had a lapse in judgment because I was so drawn in by the way that she wrote. I was like, oh, but I just sometimes when someone is so talented, you just want to be in proximity to their talent just to witness, like, man, what goes into how you carve out these words. Because writing is my first art form. Um, if I had to choose to do one thing for the rest of my life, it's right. It would definitely be right. And writing, whether it's motivation, inspiration, encouragement, books, but words, I just love words. I love stringing them together to help people see things differently. So yeah, entered the program, and yeah, then just I think the first call was great. It was great to be in her energy, and the group was amazing, and it felt safe. And then the next like three calls were all rescheduled or postponed. And again, in the through the lens of authenticity, their assistant was like, "Oh, she's just not feeling well, or she just doesn't feel energetically." I was like, "Oh, the energy is off today, and she's not like there wasn't a concrete reason." And I'm all for boundaries, but three times in a row felt a bit excessive. And just imagine you have, I don't know, a red eye flight, transatlantic, and your pilot comes on board, and he's like, "Y'all, I'm gonna be honest, had a rough morning. I'm just not feeling it. It's been a rough day. There's lots of traffic, and I don't know if I can make it. So let me see if I can get a nap in the lounge, and then we'll see what's up." Like there are some careers and professions that do require a level of professionalism, and that's why they also pay well. You think about what people pay for Taylor Swift or Beyonce tickets because they expect a level of excellence for as many cities, shows, and countries that are part of that tour. They know that they have done the work beforehand to train and prepare to have the stamina to sustain a multiple month city country tour, which is marathon like. It's absurd, but it's amazing to witness. So yeah, because I'm someone that I don't remember the last time I canceled a call. In my 10 years of coaching, it's on one hand, three times maybe, twice is what I could probably remember, twice. But I don't cancel calls. I've actually had one where everyone, it was during you know, all the chaos in 2020, where everyone, messaged in that they wouldn't be able to make it. So I was the only one on the call in the cohort of seven. So yeah, oh yeah, that was the mastermind. But I don't, and there's been times where I've had massive period cramps. There have been times where I was traveling and I landed at 3 a.m. and um, yeah, and I had 2 hours to shower, get to my hotel, and get ready for the call. And that was on me for not planning better. But sometimes these trips come up randomly, so I don't always know when I'll be on a flight. I've definitely had to reschedule calls. I have multiple calendars for multiple companies. So yeah, sometimes a slot will get double booked, and I'll just, you know, ask if they're available at a different time. And as a what's the word? Concession. Lord, it's late. As a concession, I'll add another 15 minutes to that call just for their graciousness because they don't have to say yes. And I appreciate anyone's flexibility. Anyways, I say all that to say, by the time I got to the next call where they actually showed up, then they dropped this slur, which was so unexpected, but they were quoting like a lyric. And I was like, yeah, yeah. And the craziest part is I didn't even ask for a refund. This was a five-figure investment. I was thinking you might be like, what, girl? I think I was so checked out. I was like, this is the energy. My energy is expensive. Let me just start with that. My energy is the most, my energy is expensive. My my presence is a luxury. and I treat it as such. And not to say that I wasn't ever going to get it later, but I needed to just cut ties energetically and not stress about whether a refund was on the way. And so I said, you know, because this happened, I'm just going to go ahead and remove myself. I do appreciate, what you're doing, but I've realized this isn't a safe space for me. And of course, um, them probably not having many Black clients or just not being, they weren't from the US either. So there was a lack of probably just historical context and awareness. I mean, I'm sure they knew, but just not knowing the severity and the depth of it. This video, I don't know how we got here, but I say all that to say, um, they, dang it, see, Rihanna, you gotta stop me when I'm on these tangents. You gotta come through the screen and be like, well, I got it. You can move on now. Because I'm gonna just keep going. Okay, wrapping up. Last thing I'll say is if you are if you are wondering whether something is oversharing or safe, I would say go for the overshare side. Only because what you think is oversharing is just vulnerability. When you aren't used to being vulnerable, it's better for you to practice a couple posts that feel like oversharing so that you can realize, oh, wow, I got some really good comments from this, or like quality feedback, or wow, this is the first time people actually connected with my posts, or wow, this is the first time people are actually commenting and not just liking it. And oh, wow, it's actually sparked engagement and conversation in my DMs. Like, I want you to experience that. And you're more likely to get that through oversharing than through maintaining the status quo. And again, not every post has to be a trauma dump. I say don't pimp your pain for profit. It's important that you always tie a lesson into something that feels vulnerable so it doesn't just feel like you're still in that place. If you share from like, oh, I was really depressed and like there's no resolution, like people might still think that you're in that depressive state. So it's good to share the update. It's good to share the lesson. It's good to share the breakthrough. It's good to share God's promise, but um, go for the overshare. Go for the overshare. Um, yeah. And I'll listen, there was value somewhere in this video. I promise you. You just got to find it. But thank y'all for watching, and to the hundreds that have downloaded the Creative Reset this month. Y'all are incredible. I'm so amazed by everyone's feedback, by everyone's process, by how you all are documenting yourselves. It's so inspiring, and I'm so grateful. I will start handing out the one-on-one sessions soon. So stay tuned and keep tagging me in your behind the scenes footage of you reading, of you going through the handbook, anything like that. And yeah, for those who haven't got their copy yet, go to mycreativereset.com in the description below, and I will see y'all tomorrow on the next episode.